Good morning and welcome to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I am located at 1563 Main Street in Peckville, Pennsylvania, and I am here every weekend, every Sunday, from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station to bring you, the landowner, the valuable information that you need regarding natural gas development here in Pennsylvania. So I want to start with saying we received at the office a call this week from a very nice gentleman who said, I listened to this radio show and I have a real question for you. And he said, I listened to you. I'm in an area, I'm convinced all these attorneys are in the bag in working with in cahoots with gas and pipeline companies. Is it true that you, Doug Clark, and the Clark Law Firm do not work or have not worked for pipeline and gas companies? And of course, we very much welcome that question because as I say every week, I, Doug Clark and the Clark Law Firm, do not, have not, and listen closely because I will not work for oil and gas companies. I work for Pennsylvania landowners, Pennsylvania oil and gas right owners. Have not, will not, do not work for gas or pipeline companies. So feel free. You can call the office anytime to inquire, but that will be the answer you get, and that will always be the answer that you get. I'm from a long line of Pennsylvania landowners, and that's who I am going to fight for, represent, and work for. And that's why we do the show in hopes of educating, lifting, providing good quality information to all Pennsylvania landowners to help even out this playing field, which is so, in my opinion, slanted towards these energy companies that have the experience, that have the lawyers, that have the experience of operations all across the country, that have these teams of landmen. We need to level this playing field as much as possible, and I'm going to do everything I can in my part to do that, to provide that information, to provide what I believe to be high quality landowner, property owner, oil and gas right owner representation. So again, keep the questions coming because we do not, will not, and have not represented gas or pipeline companies. But in case you forget, I will continue to remind you. So yes, what do we do then? At the Clark Law Firm, I represent landowners for, obviously, oil and gas lease negotiations, pipeline negotiations, any agreement modification, extension, royalty and royalty deduction issues. I'm going to take a second and do a quick little kind of in-show commercial, if you will, but stay tuned. Going to be short. But if I've had people, or particularly one gentleman, contact me recently, and if this happens, I want to hear this from you also. If you recently were notified by your gas company paying you royalties that they have changed their position and that they are now going to take deductions, or if all of a sudden a company that you were receiving royalties from now started to take deductions for such items as gathering, transportation, those type of fees, if all of a sudden you have deductions taken from your royalty statements where they weren't taken before, please give us a call. I'm interested in hearing from you. 570-307-0702. 570-307-0702. I am very interested in royalty issues. We have two major actions that we're involved with against gas companies for the improper payment of royalties, and I am interested in hearing from you if you are getting deductions in your royalty checks, especially when you weren't receiving them before. And maybe even the company is saying, well, yes, we weren't taking deductions, but we're going to take them now, and we're going to recoup or charge you back for the deduction. So if, say, for example, we could have taken $10,000 of deductions in the last year or so, we've now taken a position that we're going to start taking these deductions under your lease, and we're going to charge you back that $10,000 that we did not take in deductions, but we feel that we could have taken. So we could have taken them. We went a year or two, however long, we didn't take them. We've now decided, hey, we could have taken these. We were in our rights to take them. So now we're going to start taking them going forward. And by the way, landowner, royalty owner, you owe us the $10,000 in deductions that we could have taken in the past but didn't. So therefore, you're not going to receive a royalty statement from us or royalty check from us until we recoup that $10,000 in deductions that we could have taken but did not take. If you're in that type of scenario, I'm very interested in hearing from you. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark. You can call the office 570-307-0702. Very interested, very much looking into this issue. Okay, that's number one. And while I'm on a bit of a roll, I'll just throw another thing out there. I have received some calls, I won't get too detailed, but let me put it this way. If you have been sued, or maybe there may have been a preliminary injunction or legal papers, a lawsuit, a filing against you, the landowner. Man, we're seeing this in maybe say Tioga County. But if you as the landowner have received paperwork that you've been either sued by way of a complaint or maybe an injunction, a preliminary injunction by the gas company against you, the landowner. I repeat, gas company suing you, the landowner. Give me a call as well. We're interested in hearing about that. We're looking into this situation. And believe it or not, guys, it's happening. I think I can safely say that I'm aware of 3 of these. But there may be more. But over the last period of time, I've been involved in one that was resolved. But the bottom line is, if you're being sued or if you receive paperwork about a lawsuit, an injunction filed against you, the landowner, by the gas company, number one, general advice, whether you call me or call anyone, call an attorney, because when you get served that paperwork, there are things that you need to do, and you need to protect yourself, and you need to make sure that you're answering these lawsuits timely. So number one, call somebody. But if you're interested, you can contact us, 570-307-0702. We need to make sure that you're protected, because it's a big deal. You know, you're getting a lawsuit against you, the landowner, by the gas company. You better go ahead and get some assistance and don't fool around with that. Contact someone soon. Don't wait till the last 3 days, the last day. Reach out immediately and get some assistance and get some guidance. Again, you can call us 570-307-0702 or call someone else, but call someone. Again, you're listening to Doug Clark. This is All Things Marcellus. You can join me right here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Okay, and I'm gonna throw one more thing in there, and I talked a lot about this last week, but buying and selling gas rights. I'm going to throw one little more commercial, and then we'll be done for the day. Almost done, just aside from the regular commercials. But I want to say, if you are selling your gas rights or considering selling your gas rights, before you put pen to paper, before you sign anything, get yourself a lawyer, because people are selling these gas rights and getting, in my opinion, taken advantage of, signing really bad agreements. It's never as simple as it's presented to you, and you got to get assistance. So if you're thinking about selling your gas rights, put your pen down. And one of the things that I always do to start, we offer reviews and consultations, usually take an hour or two, go over your scenario, go over the property, go over the potential market value, the potential future value, and really provide some guidance to you as to, is this what you want to do? Does this make sense for you? And then can we find anyone else that's going to get you a higher price than what you're offered? And then if you're going to keep going forward, let's make sure that the contract you sign is a fair contract for you. You cannot simply look at that $ number. The company wants you to see $5,000 per acre. They don't want you to see the many loopholes that are in the sales agreement and that are in the documents. And also, you may get an offer in the mail for $500 or $5,000 an acre, and then when you start inquiring more, all of a sudden it's a little less, or maybe it's quite a bit less. So we got to make sure that you're being protected. So if you're selling your gas rights or thinking about selling your gas rights, don't sign. Don't send me the paperwork after you sign, so then I tell you all the problems. Let's make sure that we talk before you do it. And again, whether it's me or somebody else, talk to somebody. You can call me, 570-307-0702. Okay, we have a few more minutes left in this first segment, so I want to talk about something briefly. Came up yet again this week. It's coming up for years, about pipeline right-of-way payments and how they're taxed. And what I mean by that is, generally speaking, if you enter into a pipeline right-of-way agreement or a roadway agreement or any surface use agreement, but let's focus, we'll say pipeline right-of-way agreement. What happens is, generally, your payments, the payments that you receive, if the company pays you because they use the route, exercise the option, if you're paid, generally you receive payment in two types. So what I mean by that, let's pretend you're going to get $100,000. Well, that payment can be made and classified as compensation for buying the route. So it's classified as, the word is compensation. Or it can be paid as damages caused by this pipeline right-of-way installation. Damages you can think of commonly as crops and timber damages. They're cutting down crops maybe and cutting down timber, ruining the crop for the year and destroying the timber. So those payments that you're given for those damages for crops and timber as examples are damages payments. Damages. Compensation would be they're buying the right. Say it's a right to use a 50-foot permanent right-of-way. So they're buying the right to use that property. They're not buying the damages they caused. They're buying the right to have that pipeline on your property. That payment would be a compensation payment, being compensated for the use of the property. Damages payment for the damages caused by the installation. So why am I going into such detail? Well, what happens is, and this has been going on for some time, landowner calls, says, hey, I got an offer for $100,000. I want you to do the paperwork, and I want to have all of the money paid to me entitled as or classified as damages and not compensation. So I know when a landowner says that to me that somebody's obviously telling them, hey, you should get as much money you can for the pipeline right-of-way agreement classified as damages as opposed to compensation, because the person, the landowner who tells me this, has probably been told by someone many times by the landman, but by someone, maybe a neighbor, saying that, hey, damages, pipeline right-of-way damages are not taxable, that you do not get taxed on the pipeline right-of-way payments that are classified as damages. I say, stop right there. Stop. Who told you that? And was it your accountant? Because I do not give tax advice. What I'm talking to you about now is not tax advice. My advice is talk to your accountant, your personal accountant. I have talked to many accountants about this issue, and I've received different responses. So you yourself need to talk to your accountant. You sure as heck should not be taking tax advice from your neighbor, from the landman, or anyone else, or your lawyer, unless your lawyer is a tax lawyer. You need to get your tax advice from your accountant. So when the landman, if he says or she says to you, if they say to you, hey, take this, we'll give it to you as damages aren't taxable, say, okay, please put that in writing. Put that in writing to me, and I will guarantee you that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. I've never seen it, and I can't imagine ever seeing it. And I'm going to explain why here. I am up against it now. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. You can join me right here on this station every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and I'll be right back after this vital message. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Once again, I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. on this station to bring you, the Pennsylvania landowner, the information that you need regarding natural gas development in Pennsylvania. All right, so I'm talking about how pipeline right-of-way, and it could be a roadway agreement, but most commonly this occurs with pipeline right-of-way agreements whenever the landowner receives a payment. When you actually, if the company uses the agreement, if it's an option agreement, and then they make the subsequent payment. And I'm just going to, again, break it down real quick. If it's a $100,000 payment that the landowner is going to receive for the pipeline right-of-way agreement on their property, the landowner typically receives that payment in one of two ways, or actually both ways. Either a compensation payment, and that's the payment, it's a compensation to essentially think of it as buying this right to use this area of the property, buying the right to potentially permanently use an area of the property. So they're compensating you for that. The other payment form would be by way of damages. So they're buying the right to have their pipeline there for the next 100 years or forever. That's compensation. And they're going to pay you damages, money for damages for such items as damages to your crops and timber. Now, many times that you're compensated for damages, it doesn't just include crops and timber, it's also damages to the surface of your property. So there seems to be some leeway into how much of this $100,000 can be earmarked or dedicated towards compensation or towards damages. It is very common to me in my practice where a landowner will contact me, or part of this process of representation will say, hey, Doug, can you get this $100,000 all paid to me as damages? And I say, well, no, we're not going to be able to do the full amount, but, we may be able to maximize the allocation of your payment, meaning we can maximize how it's going to be allocated or how it's going to be classified towards damages if you would like, or we could maybe do it towards compensation. But before we make that decision, you landowner need to talk to your accountant, because different accountants may have different opinions. But what I typically find, and how this conversation starts in most cases, and this has been, dozens upon dozens of times, landowner says, I would like as much of my payment as possible for damages, because damages, these payments as damages, are not taxed by the IRS. And I scratch my head, but I've heard it so many times, so I don't scratch my head anymore. But I say, okay, let me ask you this. Who told you that the damages payment wouldn't be taxed? Who was it that told you? And surprisingly, not once has somebody said, well, I met with my accountant and they told me the damages payments were not taxable. I haven't heard that yet. Now, look, I'm not saying that isn't possible, that could occur, but I'm saying I haven't heard that yet. Very important. Again, I'm not giving you tax advice here in the radio show. We're not giving you specific legal advice on the radio show. What we're saying is get specific advice, especially on these payment issues. Well, on everything, but we're talking right now on payment issues. So what do I mean then? So what happens? Landowner says, I want it all as damages. So I say, well, why? Who told you should do that? Who told you damage payments weren't taxable? They say, which I know I'm going to most likely hear, they say, well, the landman told me that they can put all this money to damages and it won't be taxed, that I'll get this $100,000 potentially and there be no taxes. Well, again, the landman, unless they are your accountant, which I haven't came across that yet, isn't in a position to represent to you or offer you tax advice. A couple things. Well, here we go. Everybody join in. Should you be relying on the landman for tax advice? Well, no. Should you be relying on the landman for any specific advice for you and how to handle your situation? No. Why? Because the landman works for the gas and pipeline company, not you, the land owner. So when the landman says to you, if they say to you, hey, we'll put this as damages, we'll classify the bulk of this money as damages, so you do not have to pay taxes. Here's what I would say. That sounds great. That is attractive. That's attractive. But I'm concerned that maybe you're telling me this, but maybe that's not how it works out. So how about we do this? How about we add some language to the agreement that says company's going to pay me as damages and that these payments will not be taxed. Or if you don't want to be so aggressive, let's say, okay, you're telling me they're not going to be taxed, so let's do it this way. In the event that my damages payments are taxed by the IRS or the Department of Revenue in Pennsylvania, then you, company, will pay those taxes or reimburse me for the payment of those taxes. So if I get a $100,000 payment and all of a sudden I didn't think I was going to have any taxes for the damages portion, and now I find out I have $25,000 in taxes, then company, you pay me or reimburse me that $25,000. And I'll tell you what, let's see how far that takes you. Let's see how far that takes you. And I'm going to tell you, gosh, I'd love to see it, but I'd be willing to bet quite a bit you're never going to see that happen. So when someone says to you, hey, especially unless it's your accountant, someone says these damages are not going to be taxable, my first statement would be, great, wonderful. Can you please put that in writing and see what happens? Great little tester. Put it in writing, see what happens. Same with many of these things. Put it in writing. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. So let me say, here's some things that I've taken. One was from a Penn State site, and then another was from an accountant that I had talked to. So let me give you some examples. So here's a couple things. Again, this is not specific advice. This is just some general information to give you some idea of what's out there. So what I'm going to do, here's something, okay, this is something from online, a public source saying regarding right-of-ways and how they're taxed. In most cases, landowners will be paid on the per-foot type of basis. And so what happens is that the landowners can also request additional payments for surface damages or damages. Now, here's the line. The Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, construes payment for actual right-of-way as capital gains. That means that compensation payment. So we're going to give you the payment for the right-of-way as compensation. This says the IRS construes that payment for the actual right-of-way as capital gains. So you would pay a capital gains tax, which in most cases is going to be lower than your ordinary income tax rate. So, says IRS construes the payment for the actual right-of-way as capital gains, while the payment for surface damages is taxed as ordinary income. Surface damages taxed as ordinary income. So, if you're in a 27% tax bracket, or 30, whatever number we want to pick, well, or even 25, that's going to be a higher tax bracket than what you would be taxed as capital gains. So there's one public online source which says the exact opposite of the notion that damages payments are not taxed. No, in fact, this says no, they're taxed as ordinary income, which is going to be, in most cases, in almost all cases, a higher tax rate than what you would be taxed at capital gains rate. I am Attorney Doug Clark. You're listening to All Things Marcellus. Okay, so here's taken from the Penn State site. It says, reporting taxes on pipeline easement income from pipeline easements is taxed as capital gains. Again, reporting taxes on pipeline easement income from pipeline easements is taxed as capital gains. Now we get into, and I'm not going to go too far down this path of cost basis. It's an accounting principle, but that we'll leave it at that for the opening statement. Goes on to state then later, surface damages, for example, crops or timber, separate from negotiated easement payments may also occur, meaning that in addition to that compensation, you may also have damages payments. Here it is. These damages payments are treated as ordinary income. So again, this is a Penn State resource. I am not telling you, and I can't repeat it enough, that I'm not telling you this is specific tax advice. I am not drawing an opinion on either of the items that I just referred to or the statements that I referred to. What I'm saying is that when somebody tells you that damages are not taxed, you can go online, Google that, research it. And I'm going to tell you that when I do the research, the majority of information, the vast majority that I find, certainly doesn't say that damages are not taxable. By far, I don't find that. And in fact, the accountants I talk to aren't telling me that either. However, this is not specific advice. Maybe your accountant says, hey, yeah, these aren't taxable. But I'll tell you this, let's not rely on the landman who works for the gas company, the pipeline company, to give you tax advice. So if you think you're getting a $100,000 payment, and let's say you think that none of it's going to be taxed because you relied on the gas or pipeline, or in this case, pipeline company landman, to offer you tax advice. Now here you go. Comes tax season. Go see your accountant. Your accountant says, well, you owe $30,000 in taxes. You say, what in the heck are you talking about? They say, well, you got this damages payment, and that's taxed as ordinary income, and with your tax rate and all these other factors considered, you owe $30,000. And you say, well, wait a second. No, I was told that those damage payments weren't taxable. Accountant says, well, who told you that? And at this point, you might start not feeling very well because the next statement out of your mouth is going to have to be, well, the pipeline company landman told me I wouldn't be taxed. And then you say, well, is your company landman a CPA? Did they represent you? Did you have a contract with them to provide you with tax advice? Of course, all those answers are going to be no. So now you're dealing with your accountant and a $30,000 tax bill when you relied on the pipeline company landman who represents the pipeline company and is hired to secure a signature on a pipeline right-of-way agreement. So please, please, please get your own independent advice. And if you are signing an agreement, you should speak to your accountant to make sure that, hey, how is this thing going to be taxed? And if you don't have an accountant, you should get one. And in cases like with us, and again, this isn't, if we call the office, they have those questions, I can always refer people. I don't get anything from it. What I've found is there's some people I think I have a lot of respect for. They have a lot of integrity and they can help you out. This isn't a commercial for accountants, but the point is you need to get good advice because, look, $30,000, that's a lot of money in this example. That's a lot of money. And that can happen. And in fact, just real quick, I'll say, all of a sudden, come tax season, I get this call from an accountant, and he's kind of fired up. Hey, what in the world did you do? Why did you allow all this payment to come in as damages? And I say, well, I'll tell you why. Because I talked to the client, landowner, and they said, we want this as damages payments. And I said, well, are you sure about that? I don't want to offer you tax advice, but I think you may find that this is going to be taxed. No. We did our checking. It's not going to be taxed. So I say, okay. So we have some email communication. I provide some information saying, hey, look, I really think you may want to look at this further, but I will do what you tell me. So we did it. And sure enough, there turns out to be a problem. Had the person talked to their accountant before they signed the agreement, none of this would have been a problem. So they ended up paying a heck of a lot more tax than what they ever thought they were going to pay, which was actually zero. So once again, not specific advice other than get an accountant, talk to your accountant, talk to your lawyer, especially if they're a tax lawyer, understand the tax advice, tax consequences, and protect yourself. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm with you right here every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m., and I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I want to remind everybody again, you can always contact the office, 570-307-0702, 570-307-0702. I remind you again, I've been doing so many of these reviews and consultations, which have proven to be a really nice asset for the client, property owner, landowner, gas right owner. Before you agree or sign anything, I would really consider an hour, 2-hour review and consultation in most cases. Now, if you're going to send me a book, it may take a little longer, but it is a valuable resource. So if you're considering a pipeline right-of-way agreement, gas lease amendment modification, roadway agreement, surface site agreement, and of course, pipelines, do yourself a favor early on. But again, it's never too late unless you've already signed. But do yourself a favor early on and have a review and consultation and get some guidance from someone working for you, someone looking to protect and help you, not the company, but you, the landowner. Take advantage of it because we do these all the time. And I'm telling you, I don't think I've ever had this conversation or had a review and consultation where the landowner said, boy, I wish I didn't do that. We get tremendous feedback, so really encourage you. And I don't care where you are. I do these by telephone all the time. We do them by conference calls. I have hunting clubs. I have large families that we represent. We have LLCs that I represent, all kinds of different organizations and property owners and types of property owners. We can do them by conference call, get a bunch of people on the line, a lot of different ways we can do it. So do not be discouraged by distance. You hear me say that often. Clients in Washington, Greene County, many clients in Tioga County in that area, and of course all across the northeastern part. But essentially anywhere where there is Marcellus Utica shale development in Pennsylvania, we have, and a lot of places continue to represent landowners, property owners, and gas right owners at this time. So do not be discouraged by distance. Feel free, give us a call, learn what we do, see if we can help you, 570-307-0702. And I'm going to take this opportunity real quick just to remind everyone again that today's show will be up on Monday morning at pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Use those websites as a resource. If you want to learn more about the Clark Law Firm, learn more about me, go pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. If you want to learn more, regardless of whether you're looking for representation, I believe an outstanding resource is pagasleaseattorney.com and another, pipelineattorney.com. We have, probably close to 100, maybe more, hours of radio shows available on the websites. Pages and pages of shows that you can listen to in their entirety, and we index them by topic. pipelines, selling gas rights, real estate transactions, estate planning, all these different types of issues that relate to natural gas development. Almost guaranteed, I think you'll find something on pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com, prior radio shows. Check it out. Great resource. Again, whether or not you're looking for a representation, go check it out, get some information. You can search the radio shows by topic. There's a search button, so you can type in what you want to get information on and go ahead and have at it, because there is a lot of information on there for you, the Pennsylvania landowner, the Pennsylvania oil and gas right holder. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. We're going to jump back into it, and I'm going to give you guys some breaks and commercials here. You know, I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I want to talk about a concept here that I've touched on before, but something that just, again, happened this week. And a lot of times I draw ideas for the radio shows based upon what I experienced over the past week. And earlier I talked about, if you're getting sued by a gas company, feel free to call the office, 570-307-0702. But anyway, okay. Sorry, I said I wasn't going to do it, and I did it. Sorry about that. All right. So something I want to talk about is because I'm talking about pipeline right-of-ways, this doesn't apply to just pipeline right-of-ways, rights of way, but it does give a great example. But this can happen about other things as well, but I see it most commonly occur with pipeline right-of-way agreements and offers. Let me explain. There is a psychology in the negotiation process. There is a landowner psychology. There's a general, world is full of stereotypes. Stereotypes are bad as a general idea, but the truth of the matter is that companies know that there's a psychology, a way of thinking that landowners have. There's a psychology, a human nature, the way that people react, the way that people handle things. One thing that you need to be aware of is that there's a book, if you will, out there about landowners, how to communicate, how to talk to landowners, how to persuade landowners, how to explain things to landowners. The end result is seeking to get you, the landowner, to sign an agreement or contract. So there's a school out there of history where you can learn from to say, hey, here's what we found to be proven to work in the past, not only in Pennsylvania since 2005-06 and before, but other parts of the country. So how do we feed off of, how do we learn from this history to achieve our result that we're desiring to achieve, which is to get the landowner to sign this particular agreement? So in my opinion, there are many, many different ways. I'm not going to talk about them all here. Sometimes I get landowners that tell me, this guy just kept showing up, and finally I just signed to get him the heck, and they don't always say heck, to get him the heck out of there. Just wanted to be done with it. Where do I sign? You've worn me down. Quit showing up at my house at dinner. Quit showing up at my house in the evening. Quit showing up at my house in the weekend. Quit. And I've told you I don't want you to come, or I've voiced it like, hey, I don't like this, but the person just keeps coming. Finally, they've worn me down. Where do I sign just to get away from you? Don't do that. Please, guys, don't do that, because that could be something that comes back to bite you for the next 50 to 100 years or more. So do not sign out of frustration. Never do that. The only reason to sign is because you have a deal, an offer that you understand, that you've reviewed, that you understand the today's consequences, the future consequences, the potential future consequences, and you've weighed all these things out. You've considered everything, the impact for you, your property, your family, for now and in decades and generations into the future, and you've decided, hey, this is a good deal for me. And I have represented hundreds and hundreds and probably 1,000 plus people who have felt that way and have entered into agreements. That's what we do. But I also represent people that say, you know what, this just is not the deal for me. And in vast majority of cases, I could not agree more. So you say, hey, this isn't the time, this isn't the deal. I've considered everything, and this is what I've decided to do. So that's why you make decisions, not because you're tired of the landman showing up at your house unannounced. Another thing that I believe is a very common tactic, and I see it all the time, is that the deeper the landowner goes into the process of spending time, and maybe that might just be time at the kitchen table with the landman, or maybe that is time with an attorney, or time reading the documents, time communicating back and forth, maybe emails, telephone calls to the landman. Each of these communications is an investment of time, an investment of time. Then every time, if you retain a lawyer, which you should, every time you do that, or you have those communications, or as you go deeper, you've now invested more of your time by communicating with your lawyer, but you've also invested money by paying that attorney to represent you. So you have investments of time, your own time, and just even dealing with the landman, reading the paperwork, communicating in person through or telephone or email or whatever the communication is. You've invested time. Sometimes a substantial amount of time, your personal time, you and your wife, or you and your husband's time, your family's time. That's an investment. Then you retain an attorney. Now you, again, more of your time in dealing with that, but now you're talking about your money as well. So again, you're investing. And when you're investing your time and then your money, you do not, a psychological principle, that person in that position does not want to walk away and lose their investment of time and their investment of money. And companies know this, and companies try to use this. They understand the investments, of time and money, and they use that to get you to sign agreements. I'm going to explain what I mean by that right after this break. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm, right here with you every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m. to bring you the information you need. I'll be right back. Welcome back to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. We got a short final segment, so we're going to jump into it here. So, okay, I'm talking about there are many, many techniques used by company representatives, company landmen, many techniques that they employ to seek to have you execute or sign contracts with the company. Because why? Well, because the company landman works for the company, not you, the landowner. So one of the techniques that I see, and I'll just say in my opinion, and I have a very strong opinion about this, but one of the techniques that I see is that companies recognize that if a landowner makes a substantial investment or significant investment of their time, the landowner's time, and if the landowner retains an attorney and then pays that attorney, the landowner now not only has invested their time in speaking with the landman, communicating, emails, in-person visits, but they've also invested time to communicate with the attorney, and they've invested money in paying the attorney to represent their interest. So once again, this is not the company's first rodeo. It may be your first rodeo as the landowner dealing with, say, a pipeline right-of-way agreement, but it's not the company's first rodeo, nor is it the landman who's at your door's first rodeo. That, I guess, does occur one time only. But as you know, that landman is going to your neighbors and other people and has a list of all these people that they need to contact, and their job is to secure right-of-way agreements from these landowners for their property. So, again, companies are not dumb. Can't say that enough. And so they know that the more they can get the landowner to invest, the more likely that landowner will ultimately sign a contract. So if the landowner says, wow, I invested 10 hours, 5 hours, 15 hours, talking to the landman, going back and forth with them, so that, well, geez, I might as well sign something because I've put so much effort, I've invested my time and my effort and my energy to dealing with this. Yeah, it's not what I want, but I might as well sign something because at least maybe I'll get the upfront payment and possibly I'll get a future payment. Granted, it may be woefully below market in some cases, but you may feel that way. So why does the landman keep coming to your house? Why do they keep calling? Why do they keep emailing? Well, every time that you communicate, that's an investment of your time. So the more you invest, in my opinion, the more likely you are to sign an agreement in the future. So communication, investment of time. Very good for the company, maybe not so good for you, the landowner. I am a huge believer in identifying very early on, whether this is something that you even want to pursue, that you have to pursue, do you have the right to decline whatever is being presented, or do you want to negotiate this? Let's get the game plan in place. Let's not put you in a position where you've invested a bunch of time or money to deal with this offer to the point that you feel, well, if I don't sign, then I just wasted my time, effort, and energy. And if you retained an attorney, now you've invested money. So that's why I say, like in these pipeline right-of-way agreements, let's do a review and consultation early on, right away, ironically, right away. We want to do that right away, immediately. So, but again, it's never too late. So don't get discouraged. You're like, oh, geez, I talked to these guys for months and months and months. It's too late now. No, it's never too late, but the earlier, the better. So let's get a game plan together of how do you want to address this. And let's not waste your time, energy, and efforts on something that's not going to be right for you. Also, let's not waste your money paying attorney fees that you do not need to pay. There is no sense paying me or any other attorney a bunch of money or any money to negotiate terms of an agreement whenever there's never going to be the financial compensation, the money that's going to be offered that'll make that agreement worth your while. So what do I mean? So I don't like to, and I don't generally, virtually never, negotiate all these detailed terms or language in an agreement if we don't have an agreement in principle on money. Because companies, and listen guys, listen closely. If that company is out there saying, well, we can't agree to that, we want to see what addendum terms you want, or we want to see what you want. Well, of course they do. They want you to invest more time, effort, and energy, whether it's you or through an attorney. So say you have $1,000 attorney fee bill, and you said, well, geez, I got this $1,000. If I walk away, I get nothing. I wasted all my time, effort, and this money. So, well, I don't like this, but I might as well sign it. No. Do not put yourself in that position. That's the position the company wants you to be in. Be smarter than that. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. Well, that's why I say, let's do these reviews, consultations, get a plan together, and stop spending money on me. Or not that you're going to go down that path anyway, because I know what to do to try to preserve your money. We don't go further unless we know we're going to get somewhere. But there's a trap, in my opinion, trap. Oh, send us what you want. Now they know that you have more time, effort, and money invested in this, or at least your own time, effort, and energy. So they know that they're closer to getting you to sign. So we don't do that. And don't fall into that trap. And it's occurring now all the time. I see it mostly right now today in Tioga County, but I see it all over the place. It is a trap. Trust me, I do it all the time, represent people all the time. Yes, of course the company wants that, because now you're just going deeper into that trap, And you're probably going to get to the point where you feel, hey, I'm too deep. I'm not even going to try crawling out of this. Where do I just sign? Let me cut my losses. No, do not have losses that you need to cut. Let's be smart. Let's do this the proper way. So again, do not fall into the trap of investing more time, effort, and potentially money because the companies want you to do that. And ultimately, you may elect, and in a lot of cases people do, to sign bad agreements to offset their investment of their time, and potentially the investment of their money. And there's ways to defend against that. Real quick, I'm going to leave you with this, where landowner comes to me and says, oh, they're only going to put one pipeline, one water line. That's all they want. That's all they want. That's all they want. And I've dealt with this company time and time again. And I said, well, I don't think that's what we're going to find. Yes. So he and the company says, we want the addendum. We want an addendum. So we do that. And just as I had told the landowner, I said, I don't want to do this. Here's what's going to happen. Well, it comes back, unlimited pipelines, all of these different things that were verbally represented aren't happening. So we got to be smarter. We can't fall into that trap where the landman says to you, oh, we only want to install one line. We only want to install one line. Give us the addendum, do all this work, spend your time, hire an attorney, have your attorney send the addendum. In my opinion, it's all just a trap. And if you do this enough, and if you've been engaged in agreements with over 60 different pipeline companies, you see how they operate. You see the patterns. You see how they operate. And we can learn from that. And we do learn from that. And we identify early, is this a negotiation worth pursuing? Is this a negotiation worth pursuing at this time? What is the plan? What is the strategy? I am very comfortable. Go check out the websites, pagasleaseattorney.com, pipelineattorney.com. Look at the testimonials. Look what we do. I assure you, there is so much information out there that's available to you, the landowner, to get the best possible agreement. Do not fall victim to the investment trap of your time and your money. Don't fall victim of, oh yeah, this is all we're going to do. This is all we're going to do. Because I can tell you, I deal with these companies. I get, landowner says, oh, this is all they're going to do. I say, look, I know what's going to happen. I can send this request, but it's going to cost time and money. And then what's going to happen is all of these things that were verbally represented to you, I don't think we're going to find that you're going to see those documented. And sure enough, in this case, what I thought occurred, and again, not rocket science. I'm not the greatest person in the world. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do have is the experience and have done it before. So we know how they respond. So we're going to give you the truth. We're going to tell you straight up front. We're going to negotiate, if we do, the best possible agreement we can get you for the most money and to protect your property. Don't fall into these traps. If you need any representation, you can always call us 570-307-0702. Reviews and consultations are great resources for you. 570-307-0702. Again, if you get sued by the gas company, get a lawyer. You can call us, call somebody. And also, before you sign any document, call us or call somebody. You need to protect yourself. You're listening to All Things Marcellus with me, Attorney Doug Clark of the Clark Law Firm. I'm here with you every Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. And remember two things. The gas and pipeline company landmen work for the gas and pipeline companies, not you, the landowner. And number two, please, guys, stop signing bad agreements. All right. Have a great week, everyone. I'll see you next weekend or next Sunday from 8 to 9 a.m. Have a great week.